Yo, welcome back to Wook Plus. I am Weekend Wook, joined by Kev, the Great One, T, and the black box right now is Mr. Scott Marks.
We're
Let me put
troubleshooting behind the scenes.
if I put names on, there we go.
There we
Just
go.
so I
There we go.
remember.
Where we are.
I've really wooked myself out here, so this is perfect.
That's all right. If I had to
Perfect choice.
choose, I would rather have audio than if you can only have one, because then we can at least talk still, right?
Right.
It'd be far more awkward if we could see you and couldn't hear anything you were saying.
Someone just had a legal pad.
Right, exactly. Like whiteboarding everything.
Yeah, what's up, guys? This is fun. We got PHiSH in
Woo!
October, though not. Well, I assume not anything Halloween related. I think that's the prevailing
No,
wisdom, right? But I guess maybe one of the things we could start the conversation with is, what are you expecting from this run in Albany? Is there anything unique about it coming up? Is there anything special? What are we seeing here?
I don't see it being anything but 3 regular shows. I don't even feel a guest.
No, nothing. What do you think, Scott?
I could see it with what Kevin's saying, where it's regular shows, but given how they did the 2 benefits last year for at SPAC, I can see a guest popping in for one of the 3 nights at the very least. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
but
Wouldn't
I have no
surprise me.
expectations.
Yeah. Not expecting it, but it wouldn't surprise me.
What kind of name are we talking about?
Better than Billy String? No.
John Mayer? You think Mayer might show up?
I don't know. I mean, you got to take a couple steps up the top. Derek Trucks from last year was pretty special.
I think that was the best sit-in they've ever had, or at least that I've ever seen. I mean, that was phenomenal.
Where
I
are you?
really think
Where
that was special.
Scott? Where were you? Where are you on the Billy String sit-in? Because that seemed very polarizing.
For me, I wish that I hadn't known about it ahead of time. Perhaps, I mean, I was walking out of Deer Creek that Sunday night, and there was already rumors that he was going to be sitting in. So it wasn't even something that was on the internet at that point. And then his bus showed up. I was outside Grand Rapids, or it was in Grand Rapids. So everyone knew it was going to happen. And I kind of like that element of surprise, which I don't always get given my position in the community, where people will pass things along. But also, if you're, if you were online, it was pretty hard to miss that was going to happen on Tuesday and then on Wednesday. I enjoyed it. I wasn't at the shows. I'd gone back to Rhode Island afterwards. But I thought with Billy Strings, he had a chance to kind of stretch his chops out beyond his typical genre of music, and just, showed how great he really is. Where, I mean, you see him playing with Tool and PHiSH and just like other bands, and just he's fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah, I think
I
he played really well, and he's a phenomenal musician. But I don't know that Kev, I know we argue about this constantly. You're gonna be like, oh, you don't, but I don't know that it was the best sit-in. I think he's a phenomenal musician, right? But I think Trucks worked better with the ensemble and the band. There were moments of Billy that I thought were phenomenal, but there were also moments that I think were a little bit weaker. I don't know. He's a phenomenal musician. He played fantastic, but I'm not one of these people that are like, oh, it was the greatest thing ever.
And I don't know if it was the greatest thing ever, and perhaps I'm not one to really answer on who fits in better than somebody else. If you're playing in time with the rest of the band, and you're paying attention to what the other 4 guys are doing on stage, that's good enough for me. And you're not playing stuff out of tune. So it might be the limit to my musical knowledge at that point, or just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's all opinion. It's all
talking to a
subjective.
trombone player here.
Yeah, but I feel like Billy knows PHiSH. I don't think Derek Trucks is a student of PHiSH like Billy grew up being a student of PHiSH. Then I think that helped him.
Really? Because I think the opposite. I think it really stuck out that Billy thinks of jamming and playing differently than the other musicians. And there was a lot of, not in a good way, in my opinion, a lot of awkward moments or tension. Whereas with Derek, I thought there was more cohesion in the jamming. I don't know. I got to be honest. I don't remember all of Derek Trucks. I remember the feeling after the fact. I don't remember all of the jams, like note for note, but I
It
remember
felt like it took through
after,
Golden Age.
Yeah, and the everything's
It
great.
took him through Golden Age to get into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I would love to see a sit, and I think that this is the time to do it on these limited runs. Like I because that was the other thing about the Billy Strings thing, right? I think man, I'm gonna get people that are all hating on me on this, but I feel like it fucked up the momentum of the tour. Like this was a really, really good tour, and they're jamming. I mean, how many, you probably know, Scott, how many 30+ minute, 40+ minute jams they had, and all of these creative like places they were going. And then I feel like those 2 nights in St. Louis, it was fun and it was novel, but like I feel like they almost took a step back on the trajectory of the tour and had to like kind of rebuild after it. Whereas unlike an Albany run or like, one of these Divided Sky or what, I don't remember what it was, the flooding, I think last time, but like, I feel like it's an isolated thing. So it's fine. You have somebody come in and there's not like this momentum of a tour that you're
Well, plus it's a different kind of show, right? It's like the benefit show. It's a little bit different. Like it makes sense to have a little bit extra mustard with the show and have a guest come in and do something special, unlike when it's on tour, it's just sort of like if they happen to be in the same area, like when Bobby sat in with them and stuff like that. It's just sort of like, oh, hey, we're in town too.
I remember that. That was great.
So, like, I don't think you're bashing Billy at all. I think you're entitled to your opinion. If everyone goes into a show having different expectations. Like, do you want to bust out? Do you want a 20-minute jam? 2 20-minute jams? You want farmhouse? Whatever. Everyone has like their different things that they want.
Right.
And I don't think the momentum was really damaged that much. Like MoMA Dance, I think, was like the longest PHiSH has played. That was over 20 minutes. And they had other songs that, went 10, 15 minutes. And on Twitter, I constantly preach about, this song went 20 minutes, that song went 20 minutes. It's just a number. So you could have a piper that goes 12 minutes. That sounds better than a tweezer that goes 25. If you go somewhere and you do something with it. I thought the Death Don't Hurt Very Long had that bluesy feel to it.
Yeah, that was
and I'd love to see it happen again.
Yeah.
But I don't think momentum really, was shattered there. And I think it was just different.
And on top of that, let's talk about, for a minute, that what's going through my mind, which was the first time they played
the debut of that was sick too.
Excellent. Like that was spectacular. And that was really fun to have him debut on it because there was nothing to judge it against yet, right? Like it was just sort of a new song. So why not let him do that one? So then the next time you play, it's actually kind of the first time you play it with the band. So I thought that was really awesome that they kind of did that with him and like let that one really shine. Which was
I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting Billy to actually sing a verse on top of that.
Right.
It was cool.
Were those weaker first sets? Because I don't know. I have this distinct memory of a slight, like a pullback. And again, you're right. It's entirely subjective. And like I'm a kind of a dick for like being hypercritical. But like,
how many shows did we listen to at that point? In the tour?
Well, no, Kev, you are 100% right. The burnout, the after show burnout, where you're just like. You and I especially, and T, we haven't missed a second of this fucking band in like 5 years or whatever, like 4 years. Like every single second we've, and it's not just listening to, right? It's like the whole, I have to have a opinion and an
notes
asshole.
And like,
exactly. You do get burned out halfway through the tour. You're like, oh shit.
I think a lot of the first sets, again, it's what your measuring stick is. You're not going to get something like Fall 97 with a 5-song first set, 25 years later. I think first sets generally aren't as strong as the second set. You might have like 10 songs in the first set where the band's kind of, going in a different direction. Not always. Sometimes you'll get like a 20-minute jam or something that they'll extend out. But these sets didn't strike me as being, drastically different than other first sets on the tour.
Yeah.
No, yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that because actually we were talking about this earlier. I've been reminiscing about the Fall 21 tour, and today's the anniversary of the Tula show, which was actually my favorite first set of that tour. And it just right out the gate, Fluffhead in ICU, we got a llama to close it. Second set had, of course, the magical Tula Piper, but that was one of those rare instances where I was like, God, this first set is a little bit different than what I'm used to, and it rips. And so to your point, Scott, I think that's a very good point, that like first sets in general sometimes can be a little hit or miss, or a little bit different and a little bit changey compared to like what the second set is. And like, depending on what you get in the first set, like Kevin and I was talking about with the Dead, Kev, especially like what sets up the second set in the first set and what really gets them going, and what songs in the first set kind of relate into the second set as warm-ups or lead intos that you get later. I think it's always interesting to see what they do with those too.
I'm going to look at my notes and report back to you guys on one of the after shows why I
saved your
think.
notes.
Yeah.
So, Scott, did you feel like we were really under the influence of the Allman Brothers this past summer?
I don't think so. I mean, like every so often you'll hear that little "There's a Mountain/Mountain Jam" descending riff that sometimes finishes and sometimes doesn't. But I didn't really think things stood out more so than normal.
Well, I saw a lot of talk on Twitter every night, and I was here. Like one night they did Tweezer, and it sounded like they did LeBray's in A minor for a little bit. And then someone's like, oh, Tweezer's in A minor. And they had gone into it, and I was like, see, they are. But I go back and listen to it, and it isn't there.
This is like Charlie Day with, trying to do like the whole conspiracy shit. Like arms in a different direction. Yeah, it's all brothers there.
I heard a really good description or thought on the Allman Brothers conspiracy that Trey does it a lot, right? And has always done it a lot. But the difference this past tour was that PHiSH was playing like Butch, like he was harnessing the Allman drum sound a little bit more than he had in the past, and giving it more of the Southern rock rather than like his more fusion jazzy drumming. And by the rest of the band coming underneath Trey when he does those riffs, it makes it more obvious to, the casual listeners, like, oh, I know that sound, right? Like, I don't think, because we were all attributing it to Trey, but I think Trey always has those little riffs in, right? He's always doing the mountain jam thing. And I mean, a lot of his climaxes are like directly pulled from the Allmans. Like they're like direct ripoffs of it. I think it's just the rest of the band emulating a little bit. What is this next thing? Does that mean like this topic's boring? Let's move on. All right, fine.
Matt's not a big Allman Brothers fan.
Go back to Kevin. It's not to say that there's not an influence of the Allman Brothers and PHiSH. I'm sure there is. I just don't know if there's more this past summer than other years. I think there's definitely influences from Zappa and Grateful Dead and whatnot. So, but I didn't think anything really stood out more so than usual.
We got a Peaches.
We
got a
couple Peaches.
Just for the record, that was Kevin's topic. So when Matt's shitting on it, Kevin gets the L. Kevin, you want to redeem yourself with another topic?
Can we talk about what are they called?
Hog crankers?
Hog
crankers?
The Albany hog crankers.
Oh,
where did you find that? Was that a Reddit post?
It was in a Facebook group, one of the Facebook groups. I just have a vision of all these bikers coming to a PHiSH show and being like, this isn't like the Grateful Dead.
Did you say the Albany hog drinkers?
Hog crankers.
Kev, you going to give context to the post, or are you just going to
apparently
obscurely reference something you saw on Facebook?
There was a warning that to be sober which we can get into the question of that too, since it's for a sobriety
Right,
thing.
but
they're
this
saying,
wasn't
watch
about
out
the ethics of the
Right.
sobriety. This was about the driving and the checkpoints.
Right. Lots of cops, they're going to have checkpoints. Don't drive. Take an Uber, walk, whatever you got to do. But then in the second paragraph, they mentioned people being rowdy and the whole.
Well, I'm going to quote it. In addition to
Yeah.
cracking down on impaired drivers, officers will be monitoring for disorderly conduct and other disturbances, including a recent uptick in incidents caused by the so-called hog crankers. This this term used by local authorities refers to individuals who have been known to cause trouble at large gatherings, often disrupting the flow to the event with reckless behavior.
That sounds like me.
Yeah, you're a number one hog cranker there, Scott. No, but what I'm curious about, like, do they expect, like, I don't know, are they expecting like mayhem to break out? Like, is there usually mayhem after? I mean, I feel like other than
Where's the
Blue-
source this coming from? Is it just like a
Facebook.
Facebook group, or like was it actually posted somewhere?
Well,
Um,
I think I don't
well,
have it in front of me,
no,
but they
where
tagged
I
to
got
the-
it in front of me, Kev, like where it came from was it said like local authorities have announced multiple sobriety checkpoints around the arena this weekend in preparation for the PHiSH concert, and the police department, working alongside New York State Police, is implementing measures to reduce impaired driving and ensure public safety. And then
Yeah, it's from
The second paragraph.
WNYT, which is Albany television station.
All
It
right,
was
so
a
it's
news
like from a
report.
TV station.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the sobriety checkpoints are legit. I don't really know about the. You're going to find that for most,
right.
most things here.
Yes. That's awesome.
So is it wrong to go and get butt wasted at a show that is a benefit for recovery?
I don't think so. You're feeling very ADD today, aren't you, Kev?
I am
Bouncing everywhere.
You know what it is I'm a little tired. I've been like burning the candle at both ends. And Kev's like, ooh, Wook's just going to let me run wild. He's taking full advantage of it, right? Like, there's not a set list. There's no like real order to the show. And he's just like, let's jump around. No, that's a good question, though. Let's talk about that. What do you think, Kev?
I think that that T mentioned, are they going to be selling beer? Yes, I'm sure MVP Arena is going to be selling beer. So, but I think if you're going to go in, don't be the guy who's passed out in the lobby.
Yeah, but I feel
or
like
the
that's
place
always
or
the case. I
something.
don't think that's specific to being a Divided Sky Foundation show. I think you should
But I'm
always
saying
be.
maybe you need to be a little more aware of and have a little reverence for what Trey is trying to do and trying to accomplish with doing a benefit for these shows.
Right, but what I'm saying is maybe that awareness should carry on to other shows, and you should never be a dick or douche. Like, control yourself. Like, I'm not saying don't partake. By all means, rage responsibly.
Oh,
do
cranker.
you? And I have several friends, and luckily, knock on wood, I have not myself been in this situation, but I have a lot of friends that are in recovery, and they have never ever, and I don't know if this is common for other people, have put that on me, right? Or on other people. Like, it's about their personal experience. And I don't know, man. I just feel like you should always just be mindful of others, control your shit. I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine a PHiSH show without.
You should, but that doesn't always mean
partying.
it happens, right? Like, I mean, sometimes, just like sometimes you eat a little too many mushrooms and you have to leave the concert early in the second set. Like sometimes things
Sometimes
happen.
you have a thermos of tequila and you get really angry at everybody. Yeah.
Right, like it happens sometimes. So I mean, but I think to me, when it's something like this, when it is a benefit show and the underlying theme is that, I mean, it kind of, it seems like you should be on a little bit better behavior, right? It seems like things should be a little bit more respectful.
on your
It
best
seems
behavior.
like that, right? But at the same time, I think on that one thing, I think it would be that one note that you were mentioning, Tim. I think it would be really strange to go to a PHiSH show without alcohol sales, or any concert, I guess, for that matter. Would be kind of a weird thing to go to a venue at an arena and not have like the alcohol sales going. That would be an interesting. I don't know. It would just be. I don't know. I mean, I not that I drink that much at shows anyway, because I hate having to take a piss during the show and whatnot and being
I
wasted.
ain't spending $20 on a Coors Light. That's my issue.
I actually don't drink at shows most of the time these days, but like I don't think that would be as weird. But like the idea of like
But I think
people just
no
not
lines,
partaking at all.
right? And nobody in lines and none of that happening. And I mean, obviously for the arena, I think they, obviously have to sell liquor because that's where they get a shit ton of their revenue coming in from. So
Yeah.
obviously, but and I don't think PHiSH would be making up for that by saying, oh yeah, don't sell liquor because it's a benefit show type thing. But I don't know. I think it would be interesting. I think if it wasn't at such a big venue type thing and it was more of like a private show or a smaller thing or something, you could probably get away with it easier too, because then it would make more sense. But I think something like this, it feels just like a regular kind of show. Yeah, $20 Coors Light for charity. Exactly. Like that's what they should have, is like
Right.
a little charity box next at the beer stands that are like, hey, donate.
10 years ago or 20 years ago, that would have been like me and my stupid friends like cheersing to sobriety. We'd be like, it's for sobriety, and like flying around and being, because like that's the stupid
shots for everyone.
Yeah, shots for everybody, and then like you cheers like for sobriety.
Right. Meanwhile, the fellowship table is right across from you, idiots, while you're doing that, and you're like, oh, sorry guys.
I don't think that just because this is promoting the Divide Sky Foundation, which sobriety means that everyone that there should be sober. One doesn't necessarily lead to another. I mean, it's a rock concert. People aren't going to be sober, and like, where do you draw the line at that point? Somebody tripping their balls off, or someone, taking a hit off a joint. You're not sober really in either situation. If you're high on weed or something else, or if you're drunk. So I mean, I don't think it's being disrespectful at all. I mean, you're giving money to the foundation. You're helping other people get well, and I think that's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not even like the ethos of the band. Like when Trey got sober, it wasn't like, hey, everybody has to be sober, right? It was like be respectful of those who make that decision, and keep your shit under control.
Right.
That's all it is, man. I am really excited though, just in general. This is been a tense time, I think, in the country. There's a lot going on. There's like a pressure cooker kind of thing, and there's nothing maybe a very few things that give me the escape the same way PHiSH does, right? Like just being, especially in the show. For us in particular, the lead up, the pregame, the set break, the after shows are great. But like in the shows, listening to the music, especially in like when you're gonna deep jam, it is the best way for me to completely just remove myself mentally from reality, right? And on it, you completely I'm not even saying like substance, right? Because I'm usually sober when we do these at home, because I don't want to be intoxicated on air, making myself sound like an idiot. But like anymore. Don't go back and look at the old videos. But even still, even sober, and even at home through the head, the music has a transformative property that just takes you away. And I guess I'm projecting a little bit now, but I really need that right now. Like this is perfectly timed PHiSH. I was like, this could not have come at a better time to just escape for a couple of days. And I'm really excited to see what they did.
Best thing about Couch Tour, no checkpoints.
You can crank your hog at home.
Ken's like, you stay sober, I'll drink for the two of us.
I definitely agree with you that it's kind of like a powder keg right now with everything that's going on, and PHiSH and live music in general has been such a welcome release throughout the years, not just this fall with what's going on in the country. But even outside of that, it's freaking fall PHiSH, indoor fall PHiSH in the Northeast. It just has that classic feel to it. It doesn't happen very often anymore. And there's a special feeling about it. I'm working tomorrow, and then after work, I'm heading up to the Albany area. And just, it's starting to sink in that we got a 3-night run coming, and it's a really special feeling.
It's a great arena, great spot.
Is this the same actual arena as the Nick? Like, you guys okay.
So there's the Nick, the Pepsi Arena, DCU Center.
Like I knew it was the same spot, but I didn't know if they had like rebuilt it or
not
something.
DCU Center, but no. But it's gone through like 5 names, I think.
I got to see the Dead there, and I also got to see some PHiSH there. and they did Misty Mountain Hop, and I wish Paige could hit those notes.
I guess you didn't.
Oh, he can't anymore. Back then he could. I think that's why you don't get a day in the, or well, they did do a day in the life, but you don't get like Life on Mars because I don't think Paige. That's not in his register.
No, man, we got Bohemian
I don't know
Rhapsody a
about
couple of years ago. That's about as hard as it's going to get for him to sing.
True.
So
Yeah, I feel like he still has it.
Well, then let's bring back Life on Mars because that was always.
I'll send a note to the band after the show.
Please do.
Snowflakes in the Sand Part 2. Let's get Life on Mars back.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you a set list question, but I don't. Maybe that's not a good topic to get into.
Look who you're talking to, man.
Yeah.
What you got?
Did you catch a lot of grief for the mics with and the way that .net went about with that? Because I completely understood your guys' logic, and especially from like the nuts and bolts of how the website works. But from like a practical standpoint, right? Of like just like not practical from an impractical, I guess, but like just from like guys talking on the lot about the set list. I don't know that I would ever write the set list like that. Like if I was writing it on a J card, I don't think I would ever write it like that. I know it was. I know people were. It was a hot topic. I'm just curious what you saw behind the scenes. Was that a big one? Was that one of the like the Wolfmans all over again or party time type of thing?
You know, it seems like there's one or two of these on each tour. And
every year, people just like
when it happens, I just kind of like, you know, F my life, fuck my life, whatever. It's like, you know, it's because it's gonna. I know it's happening at the time, and that's just gonna, you know, snowball a little bit out of control, like Shafty a couple of years ago.
That was a good one.
You know, like we at PHiSH we do the best we can to get it right, and we're not always going to be in line with whoever's doing the stuff for .com.
Do you have a hierarchy? Like, who makes the? Are you the final say, or is it like by committee?
Dude, he can't tell you that.
Is there is the Illuminati
behind the curtain here? Behind the curtain.
I mean, there's definitely a team that we discuss things with. You know, I think a lot of the stuff that goes in, you know, like I'm the primary person involved with, but you know, it's not, you know, an ironclad thing where, you know, what I say automatically goes. And yeah, sometimes
only when it's accepted and loved by all, then we can attribute it to Scott. And if anyone has any conflicts with it, we'll blame some.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather, you know, not have the credit one way or the other. You know,
yeah.
If it's done right or it's done wrong. Like we try and have, you know, guidelines that are set up. And you know, I don't think Live PHiSH has a set of rules that they go with. Like you take Arkansas a couple of years ago, where it was the Runaway Jim
Arkansas.
with the Weekapog, the Runaway Jim.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Weekapog had music and lyrics, and it doesn't show up in there. But you'll have like something else, like the Party Time, where there's no music and that shows up. Well, why does that show up and not the other things show up?
Well,
So
the
Right,
there's-
or
Guy
Guy
Forget.
Forget.
Yeah, the Guy Forget that they
And
made
when
20
does
minutes long.
Tweezers start?
Right. And like, you know, they don't go and ask us, you know, for our opinions. We don't ask them for their opinions. And, you know, everyone tries to do their best job. And sometimes look at people and say, well, you know, Live PHiSH has this. Why don't you have that? And, you know, we're not Live PHiSH. With the curtain and the mics with Weekapog, Live PHiSH has the ability to, you know, just create a song called With.
Right.
But there is no song called With. It's the curtain with part of the curtain with. So,
Right.
you know, originally I think in my set list I had the curtain in the first set because that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then when all of a sudden you put the with in there, now it's part A and part B. And so at that point becomes the curtain with, where they start it, they stop it, and they finish it later on.
Like if they had been Reba and then they went into mics and then they did the whistle, you wouldn't
Right.
say whistle. You would be like they went back into Reba.
Right.
Even right, like it's the tag, it's the end of the song. That
Um,
said, if you're talking right and you're not doing it on a website for like mass, you would say it's just width, like right, like you would write mics into width, and everyone universally would know what it was. So I can see both sides of the argument. I just love that we're in a situation where we can nerd out about this kind of shit, and 70 people watching know exactly what we're talking about and have an opinion about it.
What about the whole Axilla thing, though? How you label that? You'll just put in parentheses Axilla 2 ending if they happen to do it with Axilla 1 instead of putting Axilla 1, Axilla 2.
And you take something where I think it was Atlantic City a couple of years ago, 2021, where one night they did Sense and Subtle Sounds, the next night they did the intro.
Right.
You know, and there is no Sense and Subtle Sounds intro. You're not going to have Sense and Subtle Sounds intro, Sense and Subtle Sounds. You're not going to have curtain width in a set list. So, like, you know, it's difficult for me because I want to make everybody happy. I want to please everybody.
But you have
rules. It's not going to happen. I'm always, you know, there's always going to be somebody that's going to get bent out of shape that, you know, their stats are broken or, you know, what it comes down to is, look, you know, your stats are your stats. Your set list is your set list. Right. You know, and how you want to go in there is how it is, you know, and so if someone thinks that, you know, there was a Giefers A played or a Manteca played, cool, you know, then you heard it, you know, it's
exactly.
You should see my old Farmer's Almanac. Yeah. My old Farmer's Almanac, I would write stuff in.
Kev, this is getting into the play and reprise territory here.
Play and reprise, right?
That's what we're
when
talking
is it
about.
A playing reprise and not?
Scott, I want to ask you just kind of on that same note is the teases that you always find and people find and stuff, and how you notice those, like especially like the San Jose tease that Kevin and I always joke with each other about, like being in there and stuff, and how you recognize and pull those out a lot of times, because even sometimes we'll hear things and be like, you know, like Kev was saying earlier, like almond teases or something in songs, and then you'll wait for you guys to put it up or something, and then nobody will, and nobody else will have heard that. So in my mind, just like you just said, well, I heard that, so I feel like I got, you know, like, yeah, I heard that, and that's what I'm going to take away from it and feel like, for me, I heard it. But it's always nice when you get the validation of it. But I swear on so many of your teases, I never hear them, and I'm like, wait, where was that? And I'll listen again and again, and you're so good at picking those out. Like, do you just, I guess, because I don't know. Explain to me how you always can find those and how you're so good at doing that, even with people helping you out sometimes and throwing them out there and then you approving it and being like, yeah, that did happen. But just on the fly, how you always can pick those things out so well. It amazes me.
I mean, sometimes I wish I could shut it off because, like, I can't listen to a show without, you know, my brain searching for things or whatnot. And with something like Mountain Jam, where you have a couple of those descending notes, but you don't have the full riff, I would feel that it's not enough to really count as a tease. And it, you know, it's subjective to a certain extent. And what we call a tease is really a musical quote. So they're musically quoting like 5 or 6 notes, you know, from San Jose or Tequila or whatever. And a musical quote, we call that a tease. And if it's an actual quote, like they're quoting lyrics, then we'll put that in as a quote. So they're like a tease would really be like you're messing around something, you don't actually get around to playing it, but we don't use that as our, you know,
maybe the whole band doesn't adopt it, just one of the musicians.
When they did Nile's song in Prince Caspian or whatever a few summers back.
That was cool. You know what it is?
They sang it.
But that, like, yeah. So, like, if you weren't sure about it at that point, all of a sudden, Fishman's dropping some lyrics, and like, all right, well, that's pretty obvious then,
right?
And you know, like, again, it's not a perfect science. What I try and do is keep myself honest. Where, like, I will on .net, there's a tease chart with timings, so you can go back and listen on Live Fish. And you can see, all right, well, that's where this guy was coming from, whatever.
Yeah, that's good.
And
that's good. Yeah, I need to do that more and check.
Well, T, I think it's also a little bit of a Rorschach test where, like, you know, there's a lot. I mean, they're playing in keys and they're playing in modes, right? So, like, there's only so many combinations in Mixolydian, which is like a mode that Trey plays in a lot, or like pentatonic. There's only so many combinations that you can have. So there are going to be licks or parts of licks, partial licks, that your head goes, oh, that's that Zappa lick, or oh, that's from Pink Floyd.
Exactly.
But it might just be part of a bigger thing that he's doing and completely random.
Right.
So I think there is like, because every single show I hear something.
Totally. And that's what
And
I mean.
that's not
Then-
necessarily a tease. It's just because those notes and those combinations.
Right. And then I always go to .net to check and be like, did I hear that? Was it in there? And then there's never, and I'm like, damn it. Nope. It's just in my head. Or I just
And
heard
that's
it
when you realize how spun you are when you're walking back to the lot and you're like talking about that tease to the guy next to you. And he's like, no, man, I didn't hear
No,
that. And you're like,
I didn't
you
hear
just
that.
feel so like, oh no, I'm really.
I'll
fucked
write
up.
down stuff that like, was this teased or whatever, all with a question mark, and I'll go back and I'll listen to it. So like, there's stuff that, crosses my mind. It's like, it's close, it's in the neighborhood, or as Charlie Dirksen likes to call it, a tease akin to, where it's kind of there, but it's not quite.
Yeah.
And so like, I'll usually just, if I'm at a show and I'm live tweeting, then I'll if it's something that's blatantly obvious, then yeah, I'll tweet about it. And otherwise, if I'm not sure about it, I'll write it down. I'll go back and listen to it later on.
You don't want to Twitter commit and put it out there, and then people be like, "No, I didn't."
Like
hear
Homer
that
going
at
into the bushes.
Exactly.
It's like, no, this didn't happen. Sorry, guys. No, not there.
Upon further review, I reject my own tweet, and it didn't happen. Yeah. No, thanks though. I appreciate that. It's always interesting. It's always fun to see where you come up with them and like what you hear and what's in there and what's not. And then what we hear sometimes too, just like you said, it's subjective, and hey, if you hear it and you feel like you heard it, awesome. And
the first time I saw Jerry Garcia at Merriweather, he did Lucky Old Son. And I walked out of that show going, man, he did Danny Boy, man. That was the greatest thing ever. And I called it Danny Boy all night till somebody's like, dude, that song's called Lucky Old Son.
What was the TV show that they did recently? Mary Tyler Moore. It wasn't Mary Tyler Moore.
Oh, we're gonna do it.
Yeah, no, there have been a bunch of Mary Tyler Moore themes.
Oh no, they did Mary Tyler Moore, but you thought it was like Laverne and Shirley or something.
I thought it was Laverne and Shirley.
And you were, and it's just like you're saying this story like back in the day with Jerry, but like this happened like this past year for like 3 days. You're like, they keep teasing Laverne and Shirley, and everybody was
Laverne
like,
and Danny Boy.
Yeah, we're like, no, bro, that's not what they did at all.
He just gets confused between his TV shows and his teases sometimes.
It's cool.
It's been a long time since I've seen
the best of us, man.
Yep.
I love that kind of shit too, like the random like Drummer Boy or Maryland, like the where it's like very obvious, and it just adds a level of playfulness to the set, right? Like I think it's not a lot, and it's usually nothing like crazy intricate, right? It's playful, like it just makes the set that much more fun.
I love when it's off the rails and you get Jumpin' Jack Flash or Satisfaction or something, when I feel like they really weren't planning on doing that and they ended up there and
taking care of business.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's always fun too, like where they kind of almost like again, like Fall 21, like what Trey was talking about, doing the tweezer into LA Woman.
LA Woman, I was just going to say that. Yes.
Yeah. And it just sort of like fell into that. And you could hear it right away. And when you go back and listen to the tweezer again, you kind of hear them start dropping into it. And then when they go full blown into it, you're like, fuck yeah. Like, okay.
They played with that Warshak thing where they played it a little bit to create that. Is it? You're not sure. Right. And then they deliver on it and pay it off. They give you the punchline. That is the shit.
That is the shit. I love
that's the sophistication of jamming, though, where they know how things are interpreted and felt, right? And then they play with the level of how far they tease it. That I feel like that's just like really high end jamming. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna stand for him, but like, I was exactly what I was thinking too. I was like, that LA Woman tease was fantastic.
Yeah, because and then it's kind of like one of those moments too where it all clicks for them though. And Trey's like, we're going in, and they're all like, all right, let's go. And then they drop into it, and you're like, fuck yeah, here we go, like sweet. And then when they come out of it, like I love that. It's the best when they all click like that. It's so cool.
Yeah, that was at the forum.
Yeah.
Yep.
The forum.
Crazy.
The forum shows that never happened in 2020 when we were going to get meat out there.
That's
the
right.
Quorum at the forum.
That's right. And actually, the anniversary of the LA Woman show is tomorrow night.
Nice.
Fall 21.
It's crazy that 4.0 and like this modern era of PHiSH has been as good. It has no business being this good. Like
and it's going to be 5 years in a few months.
I know. And you look at other bands this late in their career and shit, and it's I don't think it's at this level of like generating new and like captivating experiences in music, right? Like it's because you're talking about that and it feels like forever ago because the last couple of years is about fucking nuts. And then I'm like, I was thinking about like that's 21, like that's
3
only a
years.
couple of years ago, but like it was a great moment.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, what do you make of the new album?
I loved it. Still love it. I feel like some of their studio stuff has been hit or miss. But I think that Evolve and like Sigma Oasis, like the last few albums have just been on a different level. I thought this was really a cohesive effort. And just, it was, I enjoyed it. I listened to it like 3 times in the first 24 hours after getting it. And
Best thing that ever happened was getting rid of Bob Ezrin. He did Big Boat and Fuego, I think, and he just overproduced them. Petrichor worked. It was like the best thing he did with them because it was like a Genesis tune, but
Fuego was an okay album, I thought.
I just think he ruined their studio mojo that they got back with Sigma. Like Scott said, that album was really
Sigma,
solid.
I think, was way better, but like, I don't know, man. Like,
I don't think it was Ezra's fault.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of song selection and how it's executed. I just think that overall, like these were more sophisticated songs that came off of Evolve. A lot of heartfelt stuff from the pandemic and a lot of Tom Marshall pen tunes from the last year, like Oblivion. And it was a different level of songwriting, a different level of everything.
I like the dark. I like they embraced some dark with this one finally again.
Like The Well and
Oblivion.
Oblivion. Where do you
One is kind of dark.
I like
the
Sigma
notion
better
of-
than Evolve, though. I mean, I did like Evolve, the album, not the song, but I think Sigma is one of their best album. Like, I think that, I mean, it's hard to say because the early albums are so good, but like I hold that up in the same level as a lot of the 1.0 albums. Like, I think Sigma is the best.
I was big on it when it
post
came
hiatus album they've had. But
I
I wanted
was
to push back on you a little bit, Kev, because Wingsuit and Fuego and Winter Queen, like there were some songs on Fuego that were better, or like the studio versions were like really hot, like really high end versions of those songs. Like, and I think Scott's more right because I don't think the songs are as good, but the versions of them are better than the live versions half the time. Like, I don't know. I'm partial to Fuego. I think.
Why
Fuego's
was
a good
Sing
album.
Monica not a top 10 hit? What happened with that?
Well, see, that's not a great song.
It's a fantastic song. It's a brilliant lyric and it's catchy as hell.
I don't hate it. I mean, I don't have anything against it, but it's not like how many songs do you think I would have to name before
You want Life
I
on
got
Mars or
this?
Sing Monica?
Yeah, and the
I
line.
want Life on Mars.
Life on Mars. Life on Mars. Life on Mars. Definitely.
Well,
Life on
disclaimer
Mars.
here: I have no poll. It was just random luck and snowflakes in the sand.
Right.
Just
But when they
balls.
play Life on Mars, we're giving you all the credit for it. So, because it will happen now that we're putting it out there. Let me ask you,
Very,
Scott.
very
just to
dry humor
settle-
behind this black box.
settle one thing for us too. Where do you land on the actual song Evolve, especially like
Ooh.
when you hear it live? Because I'm a fan of it. I love it. I think it just reminds me so much of like why I
It's a
love
happy
PHiSH.
song, but it's not like pop happy. Like I mean, a little bit, I guess, but
A little bit,
I'm
yeah.
always happy to hear it. Would love to see it get jammed out a little bit, but it's not like it's not overplayed like Gaiuti and 99 and Heavy Things and like 2000. So it's like you hear like every 5 or 6 shows, like that's all right, but it's not overplayed.
Like
and-
Numberline was.
Yeah, and like it's funny because like people are talking about like so many repeats and like it's really every year you get songs that are played like in a rotation of like 3 or 4 songs. It's
Yeah.
nothing new. when an album's coming out,
Every album they've
like
done
like
that.
Rift was played like
Every night.
other show, like in 92, 93. And so like it's always been that way, and I don't think people necessarily realize that. You're still getting a lot of different songs, but you're going to get songs that repeat. And I'm sure if you took something from 2024 and you compared it to 94 and 2003, you're going to have the same thing, where you're going to have songs that are played in that quick rotation. You're always going to want to hear different things, but you're not always going to get it. But it's always been that way with this band.
Yeah, but the difference is, though, hold on, Kev. The difference is, though, Evolve every other show is not the same as Rift every other show or Gaiuti every other show. I feel like the choice of which song they're going to put down your throat is important. See, now I'm revealing myself as not an Evolve fan of the song. There were so many good songs on that album. Like Oblivion fucking slaps. Like, that is a fantastic song. If they were going to give us something like that often, and I just feel like there were better choices. Naming the album after Evolve and having that be the first single, I feel like did more damage to the album than good.
Since a lot of hate in this topic here. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah.
I like the album, and I agree with what you're saying, Scott. I think a lot of these songs are really heartfelt. They're sophisticated. They're complex. I just don't think Evolve as a title track embodies the depth of the album. I think the album is better than the song.
There's something to be said, but there's something to be said for playing songs more often on tour. Like, we got 6 themes this summer, and they were all fantastic, but that's a lot of theme from the Bottoms, I feel like. But I feel like you play the song every couple shows, you're learning it, you're getting better at it, you're finding new things.
They weren't learning theme, though. They knew theme.
But it grows. But to Kev's point, it grows. And by the time you get to that 5th or 6th version of it, you're like, oh my God, compare this to like that one, the first 2 or whatever. And you're like, wow, it's really grown this summer, or it's really grown this tour to like become this jam vehicle, or they really took this to different places than they had before.
Well, I guess that's my point, though. Evolve doesn't evolve. It was literally the exact same thing every single time they played it.
Well, yeah, but so does Rift never changed either. It was just that song that was.
Yeah, but I like Rift.
Here's the thing, though.
You're just picking what song you like and saying that. I will
stop this for a second, though.
That's what I'm doing.
So you had Sample in a Jar that did absolutely nothing from 1994 to 2017 to Baker's Dozen. Yeah. And then it went to the next level, and it's done that several times since. So you never know when something's gonna go into that next level.
Well, when they sample Evolve, I will turn my opinion on Evolve. But until they sample it, I'm just gonna be like, eh.
Well, I will say though too, back in the 90s when they did do Rift, they were playing a lot more shows to promote those albums too, right? Like
194 or 140 in a year,
right? And now we're getting, maybe like much shorter tours and much shorter runs, so there's not as much runway to play those songs, which makes me appreciate it more though sometimes when you hear those, because you're not getting it as much as you would get some of those back in the 90s. So
since Evolve has taken a beating here in this little
I love the song. I was just waiting for these two to do that. That's why I wanted to get your opinion.
It's been in a 5-show rotation for all of 2024. So it's really not overplayed at all, as opposed to something that's played every 2-3 shows.
That's about
take that, Tim.
I think that's still too often for me.
And there's certainly songs in the PHiSH repertoire that are played too often for me. I'm not going to tell you what they are. But
Lonely Trip. They played Lonely
Ruby
Trip
Waves.
too often. No, Ruby Waves. Ruby Waves has like 1,000% batting average. What are you talking about?
I can't stand the lyric, man. I can't stand the lyric.
Who gives a shit? It's like you're saying I'm not gonna go see a movie because I don't like trailers.
Something else. You can just stick that jam on something else. They always take a left.
No, they obviously they can't. They need the jam vehicle. There is something to be said about setting up the jam. Just the track record alone proves it. There are certain songs that set up better jams, and Ruby Waves has arguably one of the best track records in modern history. Maybe next to like Tweezer and maybe Disease. I mean, simple, but like it's in Ruby Waves has a phenomenal batting average. You're out of your mind.
Yeah,
Scott's like, what did I
Come on
agree?
here,
Why?
more
What did
often.
I do?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've joined you guys on this, and outside the fact that I can't seem to operate a laptop properly, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I
it's
was
good to be
gonna
back.
say too. It's great running into you at Mondagreen. That was a lot of.
so
That
much
was
fun.
very cool.
That was a real highlight of the weekend. Just randomly run into you guys on that Sunday and hanging out for a bit.
That was
Yeah, it
fun.
was
So
awesome.
I really appreciated that.
No, it was great. I got to see you in action too, like making the set list notes in the journal. I love seeing that. It was so much fun. That was great. It was a great
Yeah.
show too.
Tier 1 nerdery.
It's the way to do it. I mean, that is part of PHiSH, right? The whole experience is the geeking out about it and discussing stats and I want to say arguing, but adamantly getting into it with people. And
Yeah, people definitely get salty over their stats.
They do.
They do. And you would know too, just like you were saying with, what you put down on .net and what you consider things. People, what do you mean I didn't hear that? I got to put that in my stats. You can't take that away from me and stuff. So definitely, I'm sure you get it a lot. So
Not too bad. I definitely got a little bit of heat on Reddit for the whole Shafty thing. People like, it's gatekeeper here. He's not putting it in because he wasn't at the show. And, it's like, well, you didn't have all 4 people playing the song. And so that's why I didn't, I was reluctant to put it in. It's like, well, that Monday morning, I was like, all right, I'm going to put this in here. And put like a four-part tweet, and people like on PT are like, oh, this guy's posting this with like gritted teeth or whatever. It's like, it's like you can't win. And I find the whole thing like funny. I'm not going to go, I knew like right off the bat, you can't defend yourself. You can't go onto PT and say, well, this is what I think. You can't go on to Reddit and say, well, Reddit's like, no, this is what I think. And you got to have a thick skin and realize that, again, you're not going to make everybody happy. And, you try and be respectful of everybody and try and do the right thing. And, it's like,
you do a good job of it.
It is.
You do it well. I got one last question for you, and it's from the audience. And I know you said you don't want
PT, I mean, no disrespect. I like you guys.
I
was PT back in 2000. It's a long time ago.
Any of their songs or anything, but give us one song that when they play is your bathroom song, because we always talk about it on here. And I know the chat's really asking for like your bathroom break song. So what's one of them?
I don't usually go to the bathroom during a show. So
there you go. There you go.
I'll take a piss before the
Good
show
answer.
starts, and I'll take a piss after the show ends.
Only when there's no cell service.
Lather strong like bull.
Are they just taking all? Are they really going to just take off till the end of the year? Or do you think they're going to go into the studio, or do you heard any Trey band or anything?
I don't think anything's going on between now and the end of the year, but whether they go into the studio or not, I don't know. I'm curious. I don't know if you guys saw on social media today, but Warren Haynes and Dave Matthews Band posted something on their social media feeds about November 24th at MSG. So I imagine there's going to be some sort of benefit show for North Carolina and Florida, and you'd have to wonder if like those guys are doing it, if Trey's going to.
Trey has definitely doing it.
Show but I don't think, there's obviously no tab shows that are going to happen between now and the end of the year, because they would have been announced at this point. But whether they're going to take some time with their families or if they're going to go do some studio stuff, I have no idea.
I don't think it's that unheard of, though, to take November and the beginning of December off. I mean, I know a couple of years they've done those short little winter runs, but there's been lots of years. I mean, there's no Halloween, but this is only a few days earlier than Halloween, right?
Yeah. I think if they're going to do more shows between now and...
Well, they're definitely not. They said that this was the last thing until New Year's.
Well, maybe Trey... I was thinking Trey might, get the band together and throw some shows up, but it's kind of late now for tickets probably, huh?
Yeah, they're not doing shit, man. They're going to enjoy their time off.
I can see something like first quarter of next year or second quarter of next year with Trey doing some shows. It's been pretty quiet outside of Mexico.
Right. We
Yeah, I was
more
gonna say
horn.
we need another spring West Coast run. Like we haven't had one for what, a year now. It's kind of like every other year we kind of get the West Coast. I guess Sphere we got this year.
I
but
was
that
gonna
didn't
say
really
you're gonna
count.
get probably 2 weekends at the Sphere next year. So
Hopefully, but there's some shows leading into that. You know, like how Fall 21 again was so perfect because it was all West Coast and so great. I'd love to have another run
Yeah.
like that or something.
I gotta be
Perfect for
honest,
you.
T. I fucking hate when the band does the West
I know you
Coast.
do. The after shows are rough,
Like,
and I don't blame you.
oh, it's like 4 in the morning. I'm like, welcome to Look Plus. I'm out of my mind. I don't know what we're talking about. Okay, let's see you tomorrow.
I mean, it has to suck. The shows don't start till 8 out here, which is like
11.
11 for you guys. I mean, that's brutal. So.
Yeah, the West Coast is brutal, but
We're
we
done
do
by
it.
3. We're done by 3. They're over by 2.
Dude, it takes me like 2 or 3 hours on
So
a
you're-
good night.
You're
to
doing this like
unwind.
weeknights when it's West Coast. Like, where are you all based out of? You East Coast, West Coast?
I'm in Baltimore.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm outside of Philly, and then T's
I'm
in LA.
All right. So, excuse my ignorance here because I'm not dialed in. Like, so you're doing this after every show.
Yeah.
And so like you guys on the East Coast are up at like on a work night at like 2 o'clock in the morning doing this.
Yep.
3 o'clock.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
They're grinders. That's what we're paying big money for.
Well, Scott, when you say it like that, it makes me question my decision.
And I tell you what, we
Hey,
put
you
in a
know,
lot
some of us
time.
are built better to do this than others. I stopped doing like I just my body gets destroyed from being up till like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And like I'm trying to do the Setlist on a weekend. Someone else ends up doing a lot of the Setlist on .net for like the West Coast shows because like it takes me forever to recover from being up that late.
Well, I think that's why Kev and I were alluding to. You could tell our takes on the shows get a little bit dimmer or darker, a little saltier towards the end of the tour. We're like, that wasn't the best show. It was kind, and then like everybody else is like, that was a phenomenal show. And Kev and I are just like, we're fucking tired. I don't know, man. It was kind of it was a rough one.
It's fascinating. Like you could have some. I remember it's like going back to 2010, I think. And I had seen a bunch of shows and was getting kind of burned out on some of the songs. And like I think an Alfred I ran into someone who's like, I haven't seen PHiSH in like 20 years, 10, 15, 20 years. And so like I'm someone who will see, 15, 20, 25 shows a year. And so like, obviously, certain songs kind of get under your skin at the point because you're hearing them so often. And It's like somebody else, will see them like once a year, like a normal person. It's like, we're not normal, this is our lives where we see, the band 100 times, but like the normal person sees like one band, like 5 times in their life or something, as opposed to like 200, 300, 400 times.
Yeah, they're like, why are you bitching about Evolve being played 10 times? It's like, cause, at 3 in the morning, you don't want to hear another Evolve.
Like I learned that like nobody wants to know if I'm not, enjoying the show or enjoying the set list. And, somebody might like a Farmhouse and a Number Line and a Caspian a second set. Not something I would particularly, want to hear if I'm, looking for like a 25-minute tweezer, but like who am I to shit on someone else's enjoyment? If they're enjoying it, then that's all that matters. One person's trash, another person's treasure.
Do people do you get asked for your takes and opinions on shows a lot?
Sometimes, like there have been a couple occasions where people have reached out to me privately, like, what did you really think of the show?
Yeah.
At that point, like I'll give an unfiltered answer. You can probably tell, like if I'm really enjoying the show, I'll gush over it. If I am, if I'm not enjoying the show, or if I'm just, really zoned in on the music, then I'm, not gonna, I might not tweet as much or whatever. I try not to play all my cards. But if I'm really, really, really happy about a show, you'll know about it. Otherwise, I just,
the trick is to be negative while being positive. I'll tweet something like, "People really like Evolve,"
but not me.
except for Kev after Saturday
Right, so
night.
there's like
Hey.
your positivity or negativity at the same point. So like, everyone else likes it except me.
Except Kev after Saturday night's Mondagreen show, where it was the best fish show ever.
I tweeted that halfway through the second set that it was the best.
Hey,
fish show
welcome,
ever.
Golfing Look.
Hey, Golfing Look, welcome.
I sometimes wonder if we made a mistake, and not a mistake because I love it. I love like our community and like it's specifically doing the after shows and stuff. But it's very hard to turn off that aspect of it, like the listening critically and discussing it and stuff. And like, there's been times where I want to just go back to the before times when you just listen and enjoy fish, and like you don't have to remember what they played. You don't really have to have an opinion, and we've kind of put ourselves in this situation where like even if we didn't do the show, it would be hard for me to undo that, right? Like it's so ingrained in us.
You're part of a cult.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
I don't know,
Hey,
like I
one
kind of want to
thing
go back to that.
I want to ask Scott one thing too before we let you get out of here. What'd you think of the Not So Secret set at Mondagreen? Because to me personally, seeing it live was one of the best pieces of music I've ever seen. Letting it grow and listening to it now from a little bit of distance, I think it's even better than it was seeing it live. And it's still some of my favorite jams I've ever heard them do. So I'm just curious what you thought of that too.
So I thought it was the highlight of the weekend, which probably isn't a huge leap. Because it was that good. Not saying that the rest of the weekend wasn't, but it's like you took what was done at the Sphere with the visual technology, and you kind of put that into play with that backdrop. And I thought the actual set itself, like the 50 minutes of music, is probably my favorite of the secret sets. The Tower Jam, the drive-in set, the storage shed, storage jam rather. I thought this is my favorite out of all of those. For replay value and directions that took, being there in the moment, and just I enjoyed it. It was one of the highlights of the year, and just really an artistic masterpiece, both visually and sound wise.
I just got chills listening to you say that because I couldn't agree with you more. It was amazing. Like it's just phenomenal what they did visually, audibly. Like it was just amazing. It was beautiful. It was something to experience.
All right, I think we're gonna leave it there. Scott, I appreciate you coming, joining us. At least your voice.
Brian, awesome to hear you, Scott.
I'll have to figure out what the hell happened with this night. I logged. Are we still live?
Yeah, we're still live.
It's like I logged in like 5. I don't care. I logged in like 5 minutes early, and I was shit. Visually here, because I've never had the problem before. All of a sudden, I'm like, guys, I got a problem.
Live television, man, without a net.
Go off, take the cap off the camera and be like, oh, that's all. Hey, join us.
15 minutes out of the encore.
Yeah,
tomorrow
15
night.
minutes. Wow, that was messy.
Thanks, Scott. You're awesome, man. Thank you.